Imagine you are in a room. It is the only room you have ever known. It's comfortable, familiar, and predictable. The walls are smooth, the temperature is always just right, and every day you are treated to a wonderful show. On the wall in front of you, a mesmerizing dance of shadows plays out. You see shapes of people, animals, and objects, and you hear their voices and sounds. You and everyone else in the room have spent your lives naming these shadows, discussing their movements, and even predicting what they will do next. This is your reality. It is whole, it is complete, and you have no reason to believe it is anything but the absolute truth. Now, what if I told you that this entire reality, this rich and detailed world of shadows, was a lie? This is the very scenario that the ancient Greek philosopher Plato asks us to consider in his most famous thought experiment, the Allegory of the Cave. It is not just a dusty philosophical text, it is a story about you, about me, and about the very nature of the reality we take for granted. It's a friendly hand on the shoulder from 2,400 years ago, gently asking, are you sure you're seeing the full picture? Let's step back into that room, which Plato calls the cave. He describes a group of prisoners who have been chained since birth, facing a blank wall. They cannot move their heads, so the wall is all they can see. Behind them, unseen, is a roaring fire. And between the fire and the prisoners, there is a raised walkway where people, whom Plato calls the puppeteers, are walking back and forth, holding up statues and various objects. The fire casts the shadows of these objects onto the wall in front of the prisoners. The puppeteers also make noises, which echo in the cave, so the prisoners believe the sounds are coming from the shadows themselves. For these prisoners, the shadows are not representations of reality. They are reality. Their entire language, culture, and system of knowledge are built around these two-dimensional flickers. The person who is best at identifying the shadows and predicting their sequence is hailed as the wisest and most knowledgeable. They are living in a world of echoes and silhouettes, completely unaware that it is a manufactured illusion. This is the first and perhaps most unsettling mirror the allegory holds up to our own lives. What are our shadows? Think about the constant stream of information that forms our worldview. The news headlines, the curated perfection of social media feeds, the commercials that promise happiness in a product, the political sound bites that simplify complex issues into good versus evil. These are our modern shadows. Like the prisoners, we watch them, discuss them, and form strong opinions about them. We get good at the game, at predicting the next outrage or the next trend. We can become so immersed in this shadow play that we forget to ask a fundamental question. Who are the puppeteers? Who is holding up the objects, and for what purpose? Plato's story takes a dramatic turn. Imagine one of the prisoners is suddenly set free. The chains fall away. At first, there is confusion. Then, someone forces him to turn around and look at the fire. The light is excruciating. It hurts his eyes, which have only ever known the dim gloom of the cave. He sees the puppeteers and the statues for the first time, but they seem less real, more confusing than the sharp, familiar shadows he's known his whole life. He is in a state of profound cognitive dissonance. He would likely argue that the shadows were more real and would want to turn back to the comfort of the only reality he understands. This pain is a critical part of the journey. Awakening is not a gentle, blissful process. It is often disorienting and uncomfortable. Think of a time you learned a difficult truth that shattered a long-held belief. Perhaps it was a realization about a relationship, a political ideology, or a religious conviction. The initial reaction is often denial, a desperate desire to return to the way things were, to the comfortable shadows of your former understanding. The truth can feel like a harsh, blinding light. But the journey is not over. The freed prisoner is then dragged, against his will, up a rough, steep ascent and out of the cave entirely. Into the world above, he emerges completely blinded by the light of the sun. He can see nothing. The ultimate reality is, at first, an overwhelming, incomprehensible blankness. Plato brilliantly illustrates the process of genuine learning here. The prisoner cannot simply look at the sun, the source of all light and truth. He must adjust. First, he looks at the shadows of the real things in the world above. Then he can look at the reflections of things in water. After that, he can look at the objects themselves, the trees, the animals, the people. At night, he can look at the moon and the stars. Only after this long and gradual process of acclimation can he finally lift his eyes and look at the sun itself, understanding it as the source of all life, light, and knowledge, the cause of everything he has ever seen, both inside and outside of the cave. He has achieved enlightenment. He now understands the world of the cave for what it was, a pale imitation of a much richer, more complex, and more beautiful reality. The honors and praise of his fellow prisoners, once so important, now seem utterly trivial. So what does he do? He could stay in the sunlit world, enjoying his newfound wisdom, but he is overcome with a sense of pity for those still chained in the darkness. He feels a duty to go back down and share the truth. And here we come to the most tragic part of the allegory. When he re-enters the cave, his eyes, now accustomed to the bright light of the sun, cannot adjust quickly to the darkness. He stumbles around. He can no longer see the shadows on the wall with the same clarity as the other prisoners. He tries to explain to them what he has seen, that their reality is just a faint copy of a real world, that there's a fire and puppeteers and a sun. How do they react? They laugh at him. They say the journey outside has ruined his eyes and made him a fool. He's no longer good at their game of identifying shadows. His talk of a world above sounds like the ravings of a madman. If he tries to unchain them and lead them out, Plato says they would become so hostile that they would seize him and kill him. People do not like having their reality threatened. We often prefer a comfortable lie to an inconvenient truth. The story of the returning prisoner is the story of every great thinker, revolutionary, or whistleblower who tried to show people a different way of seeing. It is the story of Socrates, Plato's teacher, who was sentenced to death by Athens for corrupting the youth by encouraging them to question their assumptions. It is the story of anyone who has ever tried to point out the puppeteers and been shouted down by the shadow watchers. So, the allegory isn't just a story about ancient prisoners. It is a profound psychological and philosophical map of our own existence. We are all, to some extent, living in a cave of our own making. It might be the cave of our social circle, our political party, our profession, or simply the cave of our own unexamined habits and assumptions. These caves are comfortable. They provide us with a sense of identity and belonging. The shadows are simple, and the rules of the game are clear. To leave the cave is to embrace critical thinking. It is to have the courage to turn your head and question what you are being shown. It is to accept the pain of having your eyes adjust to a new light. It is to follow the evidence, even when it leads you to uncomfortable conclusions that alienate you from your tribe. It is to understand that learning is a difficult, steep ascent, not a passive download of information. Plato's message, however, is not of despair. It is one of profound optimism and empowerment. He believes that every human soul has the capacity to leave the cave. The ability to see the truth is not something that is put into a blind eye. It is already there, like an eye that simply needs to be turned in the right direction. The goal of true education for Plato is not to fill our heads with facts about shadows, but to turn our entire soul away from the darkness and towards the light, until we can stand to look at reality itself. The journey does not end with a final, absolute truth. Even the freed prisoner had to adjust.